All right, everyone. Well, welcome back. And I'm your host, Stephen Norris. And as always, my co host, Michael Dow of Megastar Financial. And today we're talking about residential real estate inspections and what to prepare for and be aware of. So, with that being said, we're going to hop right into it. So, when it comes to real estate inspection, obviously every single state is different in terms of when it takes place. Some states happen at phase 3. In Colorado, we're in phase 2. What do we mean by phase? Well, what happens is that the first phase in a real estate contract process is obviously making the offer. Depending upon what state you're in, the next piece is going to be the appraisal or the inspection. Different states are different, so please make sure you check with your brokers and your lenders about which piece is best for you guys. But in Colorado, we have the inspection next. Now, how does that go down? Very simply, you're going to talk to your agent, and they are going to contact one of their home inspectors to do the home inspection for you guys. Now, that being said, obviously make sure that you ask for recommendations so you guys can check up on this person and kind of do a little bit of background check, just like how you found your realtor or your lender as well. And the next thing that you guys should be doing as well is asking the inspector, what things do you offer besides the home inspection? Because depending upon the age of the house or how big it is or what kind of house it is, whether it has a basement or not a basement, you're going to want different things, such as most inspectors will offer a general home inspection that kind of covers the soup to nuts basic things. But if your house has a basement, you will want, in Colorado anyways, a radon test. Why is that? Radon is an invisible gas that comes from the soil, all right? It's odorless and it's also, you cannot see it. So it is going to be something that is taken care of here. And if you do not have a basement out here, you don't need one. I've seen plenty of situations where people are getting their radon tests and there's no basement in the house. And that honestly, they have been swindled by the home inspector, or their agent, unfortunately, has not been educated enough to know what to do in that situation. So please be aware about that. Now, the next thing that you might want to do is called a sewer scope. Now, a sewer scope is they take a little camera and they put it down your drain lines to see exactly if there are any blockages or any sort of rust, crusts, or just little toys. Maybe the house had children in there. They threw some things down the toilet, all right? Just what are blocking your pipes? Now, sometimes, not all the time, if there's a large tree or a shrub or a bush outside, you might have roots in the pipe. Now, obviously, please make sure that you guys understand what that actually means. It does not mean that the roots are going to come through the house and it's going to overwhelm everything. Sometimes it may be just intrusive. Sometimes it may be just a small little punch in your pipe. So please obviously make sure that you research exactly what's going on there and don't overreact to something that's going to happen on the inspection report, because for these inspectors, it is their job to find every single thing in the house that should be addressed, whether it be something as a loose doorknob to a cracked foundation, all right? It's their job to look at everything to protect you guys. That's their job, to protect you, all right? So with that being said, the next question that we normally get is, how long does the home inspection take? And generally, it's going to be depending upon your home inspector, but what we say is rule of thumb is every 1,000 square feet, prepare for it to take about an hour to an hour and a half. So a house of 3,000 square foot, 3 hours to 4.5 hours. Now, if you are somebody who wants to be there for a home inspection and you have the time to be there for the entire time, that's okay. But realize that the home inspector will not have answers for you until he is about halfway done or more, because obviously he hasn't done the home inspection yet. Makes sense. So our recommendation, this is our personal recommendation, is show up about the 80% mark. So if the house is going to take 3 hours, show up 2.5 hours into the process, because normally the bulk of the inspection should be done with the larger ticket items. Now, even though those things will be addressed onto the report, you want to be there with the home inspector so they can show you exactly what they're talking about, because yes, they will take pictures for you, but sometimes it's hard to determine where something might be, or just very simply the size of the issue if they come up. Now, obviously, if you are someone who has certain questions or concerns about something specifically in the property prior, ask the agent to ask the seller's agent, hey guys, I'm concerned about X, Y, or Z. I want to know more about that before the inspection, or you know what, they came onto the inspection, I want to know more about that. And yes, even though sometimes it should be disclosed on the SPD, seller's property disclosure, sometimes it will not be there. As an example, if you have a water tank that's been insulated with 4 inches of insulation, happens sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they do that to wrap the water tank so that it lasts longer. But once you do that, you cannot identify the date of the installation. Is that a problem? Not necessarily, but you do want to make sure that at least someone knows a ballpark age of how old it is. Otherwise, you're guessing. And you know what? It could be 20 days old or 20 years old. You have no idea. So make sure someone knows something. All right. And furthermore, if you ask the sellers a question and they're kind of being a little wishy-washy or shady, not really wanting to answer the question, that should be a red flag for you. Okay. Now, obviously, without all that being said, inspectors get a bad rap. People say that they don't have to be licensed, that they can just go in there whenever they want. You don't even have to be a true professional. But these guys and gals do a lot of classes and education to get to where they are in their careers, all right? So if you have concerns, please ask the questions. That's what I like to do, is ask the questions. Everybody normally is very good at answering these questions, and that is the biggest thing we want to tell you guys about. Now, after the inspection report, you will obviously get the line items to address. Now, that being said, you will go through this with your realtor to see exactly what things you want to address and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we found this in the inspection report. We would like to have these things addressed in some way or another. Now, obviously, the sellers can say, we don't want to do any of those things. Now, that is your choice as the buyer to proceed or to walk away from the contract, depending upon your state rules. Now, sometimes sellers may say, you know what, guys, we're moving right now. It's so crazy, stressful. We don't want to deal with anything. How about we pay you guys some money instead? Happens often enough. And what that is called is a seller concession or a seller credit. They're going to credit you on the balance sheet at time of closing for the buyers to pay for certain things. But how that is recorded is not through an inspection objection. You will have to do an amend extend. Now, why is that? That's because that's the proper documentation for it to take place. And Mike will talk more about that. But if you guys are going to do just straight money in exchange for addressing the items, make sure that you don't write that on the inspection objection. Now, if you're doing a hybrid, we have 5 items to address. 2 of them will be repaired. 3 of them will want money for them. Now, that's a situation where you will have both, but still, we'll talk through those things. But in the grand scheme of things, the biggest thing we want you guys and gals to know out there is that when it comes to the inspection, number one, ask the questions, fact check. Don't overreact to certain things unless it really is going to be extremely obvious that you should be overreacting. All right. Now, that's why we have the professionals hired on to address these certain things, and you paying these folks for their knowledge base to kind of calm the situation down. And with that being said, Michael, talk to the folks a little bit about why we have to write certain things in the inspection report, like the amend extend.
Right, and the reason that we do an amend and extend is because on the inspection report that you guys get, we really don't want to see it on the mortgage side. And the reason of that is because if it is something that you put and talk about, then it's just extra ammo that we have to provide the underwriter. And depending on what type of loan that we're doing, it could affect our closing date and certain other things. So that's why when we see we want to do an addendum to the contract, basically having the seller give seller concessions to the borrowers. So those borrowers can use whatever amount those concessions are to get those things repaired. They can use those funds to use for their closing costs and prepaids, and essentially basically get the money that way, and then they can go out and have these repairs done on their own. If not, the underwriter could be making us go out if they see that. And on certain loans, we'll have to go out and acquire 3 bids and kind of get things going and getting other people to go out and do that. Or we'll have to close certain things in escrow. And in escrow, we want those 3 bids from each one, and then we'll choose probably one of those vendors to do the job. But like I said, we don't really want to see that on that, because that could slow down the home buying process and make things long, and where we're maybe extending locks and doing things that we really don't need to be. So that's why we do the amend, the extend. It takes care of that, and the underwriters get that, and we don't really share the inspection report, right? So that's how we like to handle it on the mortgage side.
Awesome. So to wrap up here, guys, make sure that you ask your questions, make sure that you understand that everything has a solution to it. And most importantly, make sure that you are working with a true professional who has been there, done that, knows what to expect and be aware of so that they can take the situation and really kind of filter it down to the basic things that have to be addressed. Because your inspection report sometimes may be 50, 100, 200 pages long. And we've seen some of those things that get really dicey sometimes. But with all that being said, please write in your questions, concerns to us. We'd love to you guys to input for more topics of conversation. And we'll see you guys all next time.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.